presidencia española de la Unión Europea. Quisiera, además, destacar algunos otros puntos que han sido objeto de debate en esta reunión del Consejo. Hemos tenido ocasión de hacer un repaso sobre lo que ha sido la presidencia española de la Unión Europea en materia de energía, las importantes modificaciones estructurales que hemos visto respaldadas durante estos meses gracias al trabajo de los equipos técnicos de todas las delegaciones nacionales, la Comisión y la Presidencia. Muchos de estos expedientes surgen como consecuencia de la crisis energética derivada de la guerra de Ucrania. Otros preexistían en la medida en la que formaban parte de la cartera de expedientes clave para sacar adelante la propuesta de reducir nuestras emisiones un 55% antes del año 2030. La reforma del mercado, la capacidad industrial europea vinculada a la ley de materias primas o a la industria cero emisiones son algunos de los ejemplos, junto con el paquete de gas e hidrógeno o la directiva que permite introducir medidas para reducir las emisiones de metano en el sector energético, o aquel que, junto con la reforma del mercado eléctrico, nos asegura una mayor transparencia en la formación, en el funcionamiento del mercado. Ha sido también esta reunión una reunión importante para poner en común la información relativa a distintas iniciativas internacionales, para comentar el informe hecho público por la Comisión ayer mismo sobre los borradores de planes nacionales de energía y clima remitidos por los Estados miembros. Ha sido una reunión en la que hemos tenido ocasión de compartir información y vernos una vez más con el ministro ucraniano de Energía, German Galushenko, que nos ha puesto al día con respecto a la situación de su país y con respecto a las distintas medidas, las distintas disposiciones importantes, y en la que los ministros hemos podido expresar nuestra solidaridad, nuestro apoyo, pero también tomar nota y confirmar la voluntad de seguir trabajando precisamente en la semana en la que se ha dado un paso adelante importante de cara a la incorporación de Ucrania a la Unión Europea. Por último, hemos tenido ocasión de escuchar las prioridades de la presidencia belga, que tutelará este Consejo, que liderará este Consejo a partir del 1 de enero, junto con la información sobre quizá algunos de los desafíos más importantes en los meses por venir, según vayamos avanzando en un sistema energético mucho más descarbonizado, en el que el peso de las energías renovables esté mucho más presente y, por tanto, en el que la flexibilidad, la capacidad de adaptación de las redes, las interconexiones, la gestión de la demanda cobran un protagonismo que hasta ahora no ha estado todo lo presente, que sin duda deberá estarlo en los próximos años. Estas son las reflexiones más importantes compartidas por todos los ministros. Agradezco de nuevo su presencia. Quedo a su disposición, bien seguro, después de escuchar las reflexiones de la comisaria Kadri Simpson, que ha sido de tanta ayuda en estos años tan complicados y en estos meses tan intensos. Muchas gracias, comisaria.
Thank you, Teresa, and I want to first thank you and your team for a truly outstanding presidency. So your leadership and commitment of your team really helped us to finalize all the remaining energy legislative files, and we had many. So from the gas package to the electricity market design, from the energy performance of the buildings to methane, the EU has now a fully fledged agreed framework to drive its clean energy transition, and we can focus on making things happen on the ground. So thank you once again, Teresa. This has been a pleasure to work with you. And well, we have delivered. Coming to the agenda of the Council today, we are closing this year, the second since the start of the war in Ukraine, on a positive note. Despite the strong challenges we still face, we have reviewed today, as we always do at the December Council, the security of supply outlook ahead of the winter. And Europe is well prepared. The storage levels are very high for this point of the year. The gas prices are lowest levels since the war started. And we are also making progress in diversifying away from Russian imports. We expect the total imports of Russian gas for 2023 to be around 40 BCM, roughly divided equally between LNG and pipeline gas. And this is half the volumes the EU imported last year. So last year it was 80 BCM. And we keep under close review the specific situation of Russian LNG imports. I'm glad that Council and Parliament have now agreed in the gas package on the Commission technical suggestions. They also added provisions that will allow each member state to limit the pipeline and LNG gas imports in their own network in line with their security of supply considerations. And this is a proportionate and targeted way to address Russian LNG imports, and it is now for the member states to deliver. While the current market situation is healthy, the new geopolitical instability presents a number of risks, and we need to maintain in place the preparedness and crisis response measures that were introduced last year. And that's why the Commission proposed 3 weeks ago the extension of 3 emergency regulations: solidarity regulation, renewables permitting regulation, and the market correction mechanism. These measures contributed to alleviating the high prices and volatility on the markets, and they are paying off, and it makes sense to keep them in place for another year. And I'm glad the ministers today approved the extension of those regulations by additional 1 year, and we can now look at the short-term future with more confidence. One important achievement this year was the collective effort of EU and member states to fast-track renewables. And this is happening right now, the acceleration. We will reach this year more than 69 gigawatts of new renewable generation. That means that this is another record year for Europe. But we need to keep up this momentum going forward, and that's why we are putting in place new tools and new forms of support for European clean energy technologies, such as the Green Action Plan and the Wind Power Package. And today, I have assisted the signature of the Wind Charter, which follows up to our Wind Power Package. The signatories were member states and representatives of European wind industry. And a little earlier this morning, we also organised with all member states the launch of the Energy Efficiency Financing Coalition to support investment and funding for energy-efficient policies and measures. And also, in the margins of this Council, I also signed the Memorandum of Understanding with Southwest Europe, that means with Teresa and her counterparts from France and Portugal, and witnessed the signature of political declaration on implementing the synchronization of the Baltic states between Poland, Lithuania, Latvia and Estonia. And this is a matter of fact that interconnections and cross-border cooperation are key in Europe to ensure energy security, fast-track renewables and lower prices for consumers. I also want to mention Ukraine, which remains a priority focus of my work, and all the more now after the important decision of the European Council last week to open the accession negotiations. And I'm grateful to Teresa for having organised a discussion with our counterpart in Ukraine, Minister German Galushenko, who briefed us on the energy situation in Ukraine in view of the winter and the heating season, so another difficult winter for them, and to help Ukraine cope with this winter. Together with the energy community, we have rallied a fund that has collected thus far over 400 million euros. And as the Russian attacks continue also this winter, I encourage the ministers to continue with donations, both in terms of equipment in kind and financial aid. And finally, I also informed the ministers of recent external energy relations and the conclusions of the COP28. The global pledge on renewables and energy efficiency was also included in the final text of the COP28. We have now over 130 signatures, and this was incredible success for EU climate and energy policy. And all of these achievements concretely showcase how Europe is changing fast our own energy sector, but we are also leading by example. So there is no pause, we stay at course, we accelerate towards our energy future by developing concrete projects that work for the consumers and for our companies. And once again, I think that Spanish presidency was a great success, but I also believe that Belgian presidency will start in very crucial times. They will set a new tone for our targets beyond 2030. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Gracias, Vicepresidenta. Abrimos el turno de preguntas.
David Vidueiro, Spanish Public Radio, Radio Nacional de España. It's a couple of questions for the Spanish Minister, por Ribera, así que continuaré en español. Quería preguntarle por dos medidas en particular. Ahora que se ha extendido el tope al gas a estos 180 euros el megavatio hora, no sé si el Gobierno, qué tiene pensado hacer con el mecanismo ibérico y qué tiene pensado hacer con la minoración del gas, esos 67 euros megavatio hora que están en vigor en España y que, si no recuerdo mal, finaliza el 31 de diciembre. Gracias.
Muchas gracias por la pregunta. La extensión del mecanismo ibérico, que en principio acaba el 31 de diciembre, requiere un procedimiento de aprobación por la Dirección General de Competencia de la Comisión, que ya dejó claro que en principio entendía que más allá del 31 de diciembre de este año no era posible llevarlo a la práctica. En principio, los precios del gas se han estabilizado muy por debajo de lo que vivimos en agosto de 2022, lo que explica en gran medida por qué desde febrero no se ha activado este mecanismo. Con respecto al resto de las cuestiones del paquete de protección de los consumidores activado tras la invasión de Ucrania y las alteraciones del precio de la energía, estamos trabajando en estos momentos con el conjunto de los departamentos ministeriales afectados y en los próximos días se conocerá cuáles son las medidas que se puedan extender durante el año 2024, por lo que no corresponde hacer una valoración preventiva. Gracias.
Gracias. Sí, adelante.
Hello, Anna Hubert from Context. Thanks for the briefing, the press conference. First question goes to the Commission. Given your analysis, the analysis you made of NECPs not being very aligned with the 2030 targets, do you think that we need to revise the governance regulation to have a stricter framework to ensure that member states are on track? And a question for the presidency. What was the most difficult files you had to deal with during the presidency? And what did you leave the Belgian presidency with? What remains to be done to conclude the work? Thank you.
On NECPs, I think that it is very important to keep in mind that these are still draft plans. And we are still missing 3 of those. We published yesterday country-specific recommendations advising member states to include specific details to their plans, to the final plans that are due to June 2024. And it is also important to keep in mind that the majority of the member states prepared their plans before the final agreement on energy efficiency was reached. So they based on previous targets. And now it's time to upgrade the draft plans. So I strongly believe that we will see significantly higher ambition levels in the final plans.
I thank you for the question. I think that my first comment would be that luckily we had got an intense training during 2022, working together at the level of the Council of Ministers for Energy. And I think that has helped a lot. There were lots of files that were open, some of them with different backgrounds, different positions coming from the different member states. So the most difficult issue was how to reconcile the different positions towards a common goal. I would say that every single delegation expressed a strong commitment to reach agreement and to improve our capacity to respond to the energy transition requirements, and that made our life a little bit easier. So probably the most challenging thing was that there were too many things to be dealt with. You know that some of these files were negotiated in a very passionate manner by some member states, but we finally reached common ground, and I have to say that the most successful thing is that all of them are, how to say, done. So there are still steps forward that will require additional work, but not on the existing files that have been closed, but on the new files that were announced while negotiating these files. For instance, how to deal with flexibility, how to deal with markets of availability and not only markets of energy. So to ensure that the storage has a business case being built in common by all Europeans, how we can respond in a very effective manner to the eventual new crisis situation where there has been some improvements in the current legislation. But hopefully we will not need to apply these measures, but who knows if we eventually need additional measures to be taken into consideration. So my main message is a message of gratitude to all my colleagues, a message of satisfaction, because I think that these years have been sufficiently complicated to show to what extent it's important to build Europe, to count on Europe, and to solve problems together. And this is probably one of the main messages in the coming months, where we will be experiencing the environment of campaigning all over Europe. It is much better to count on an European response than to count only on ourselves to cope with big problems. We have been managing the last phase of this understanding, how to respond to these common challenges in a united manner with a flexible vision. And I think that this is what we have achieved with 21 files being adopted that do matter in order to achieve the Fit for 55 goals, 14 of them with concrete legislative measures, 7 of them with conclusions or orientations that could be facilitating our life in the time to come.
If I may add a very short comment, because it's really true that the Spanish presidency cleaned the table regarding the legislation. And there is a fair question, is there anything left for Belgian presidency? But I do believe that the first semester 2024 is a crucial time where future priorities for the EU energy policy will be set. And Tina van der Straten had today a chance to present their priorities, and I can assure that Belgian presidency priorities will be very well aligned with our latest initiatives, such as Wind Power Package and Grid Initiative, but also very well aligned with the European Hydrogen Bank. So I have no doubts that Belgian presidency, who presented very ambitious presidency plan, will deliver also from their side. Thank you.
Thank you. Following question, Alice.
Hello, Alice Hancock, Financial Times. I just wondered, based on your discussions today and recent legislative developments, how confident are you that Europe can survive completely without any Russian gas, and how soon could that be achieved, before 2027 perhaps? And then one short second question, which was to ask how the report, the demand response report from ACER, was received by ministers today. Thanks.
I will start with the question about Russian gas and our REPowerEU objectives, and Teresa will help me with the minister's view on ACER. As I was mentioning, the decarbonized gas package will allow member states to address Russian gas even at this certain moment when we don't have sanctions in place. And from my side, I also informed ministers that I'm willing to give them overview about alternative supply routes for the moment when Russian gas transit agreement with Ukraine will expire. That happens exactly after a year. So we have to be ready for that. We are providing support to member states who will be impacted, and this is long enough time to be prepared for this to happen. Thank you.
A very general comment on ACER's report. I think that it has been a breaking the ice conversation on what next. It's certain that in a context where we will be transforming our energy systems, the requirements could be different. We will have to pay attention to improve a wise use of energy, so to improve the efficiency and saving standards. And this is something that we have already pledged, as the Commissioner was saying. We have already signed this morning in a very beautiful ceremony with 26 member states signing in this, and with more than 130 countries signing the pledge in COP. But this also means a different management of the grids, including the cybersecurity, but the investment and the enlargement of the availability of grids. It included 9 different measures, 9 different pieces of recommendation to deal with a much more flexible system that could require much more interconnected Europe, a much more friendly regulation context, a much better management of the demand, and a business case for storage and availability of energy. So things that would require a combination of the traditional ways to understand the system, the management of the energy system with new responses to the new challenges. I think it was a good conversation because we saw very well how the different member states face these challenges, depending very much on the type of technologies they rely on, the type of geographical context they count on. And it is just to open the new frontiers of the energy regulation in the coming years. So it's not something that it will happen in the coming semester. But as the Commissioner was saying, I guess that what we see right now is that we still require a strong commitment in the implementation of what we have already signed in, so to ensure that things do happen on the ground, and at the same time we start opening the other elements that were not such a crucial part in the regulatory context, but become very critical pieces in order to succeed. So ACER could still have a very relevant role to play, and it has been quite clear in the conversation today that this is the expectation of ACER's team, but it is also the expectation of ministers. So the combination of the different regulatory capacities at the European level need to match and need to pay attention to how things are evolving on the ground.
Gracias. Tenemos una pregunta de un periodista conectado online, Frédéric Upuele.
Yes, hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, you can.
Okay, I have 2 questions, if I may, for Mrs. Simpson. The first one about the national energy and climate plans. So can you tell us whether it is a legal obligation for countries to submit a renewable energy target for 2030 expressed as a percentage of the overall energy mix? And if so, does it mean that countries that do not submit such a target will be subject to an infringement proceeding? And then second question, what do you make of the suggestion made today by the Nuclear Alliance to replace the current renewable energy target with a low-carbon energy target? Is that a legitimate request according to the Commission, and one you could look at favorably maybe in the future? Thank you.
Indeed, this is almost a new tradition for us that at the margins of Council meeting, some of the member states who are saying that they will meet their climate targets with the help of nuclear do meet. And as you know, the Commission is working right now on the proposal how to cut our CO2 emissions beyond 2030, so CO2 emission reduction target for 2040. And as such, this proposal made by some of the member states is also the way forward for us. So first, we will have to set the target, and all the low-carbon and renewable solutions will help us to do so, how to cut emissions significantly. The proposal Commission will publish in the first week of February, so too early for me to reveal the details. Now on national energy and climate plans, once again, these plans right now are draft plans. If we see that some elements are missing, then we do not have to launch infringement at that very moment, but we can guide member states to upgrade their plans so that final plans will be aligned and allow us to calculate EU level renewable target. And once again, the national contributions will be tailor-made. Each and every country has their own potential. Right now, we are discussing with these countries who presented lower ambition levels how to increase their ambition. And of course, we do have our own formula, what we do expect. So work in progress and no infringements at that stage yet. Thank you.
May I make a comment, of course, not as President of the Council or not as Member of the Commission, but as Minister of Energy? I think that the goal, the purpose is different. I guess that any Member State has the ability, the capacity to figure out what is the energy mix that he, she wants to promote, and it is quite fair and accepted by all. But counting on goals for renewable energy is different. It is not only that we know that it is the short-term best available solution, is that we are convinced that this helps to develop and deploy solutions that could be affordable and available for all. So it makes sense to have a goal on renewable energy, and it makes sense to have a goal on zero emissions or climate neutrality. But for the time being, we have never thought about mixing or exchanging renewable by nuclear. That's what it has been traditionally the main position of most members of the Energy Council in Europe.
Gracias. Sí, Javier.
Javier Albizu for the Spanish News Agency. Sorry for that. So a question, we heard the Commissioner this morning and also now talking about the Spanish presidency, but I wanted to ask you, Minister, how would you rate it from 1 to 10? You said satisfactory, but how would you be, if you could, from 1 to 10, how successful do you think it was? And if it was something you're regretting, something you missed, something you have liked to be different during 6 months? Thank you.
I could have loved to count on a storage regulation already in place, for instance. But that was not the case. There were many ministers, many member states asking for some more time, so to ensure that the Commission could assess the different backgrounds from different member states, and we all accepted that this could be a second phase in our regulation of the electricity market design. So that's something which is very clear to me. As a trade-off, the Commission, who was aware of the need to count on a storage system that could be, to the extent possible, similar in all member states and avoiding 27 national approaches to the business case for storage, accepted that in the meantime they could be having a fast-track understanding of the proposals being sent by different member states. That's probably one of the most clear cases. We missed that.
Thank you. Any more questions? Bueno, damos por terminada esta última rueda de prensa de la presidencia española.
Thank you so much. Feliz Navidad a todos y hasta pronto.